Hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today's video is going to be a channeled love reading for you guys, and honestly, I didn't really want to do a channeled love reading. I find them kind of icky sometimes, because it really does feel like they're kind of feeding the ego or feeding your delusions. And, if I had it my way, my channel would be like video essays on philosophy or something. But just like the heart wants what it wants, when it comes to making these videos, it just really flows through me. And honestly, today the spiritual guides wanted me to make a channeled love reading, so this is what you get. And this is going to be like a little bit of a general reading. And I think that you're going to see as the cards come out whether this resonates with your situation or not. And I think if it doesn't resonate with your situation, you can feel free to watch the video for entertainment, but maybe don't take everything, to apply to your situation. And if it does resonate with you, hopefully it illuminates something about the things that you're going through. So first, let's pull a few cards from this deck that I've illustrated myself. And the first card we're going to pull is who you are in the situation. All right, Shield. So I think you're someone who is very guarded. Maybe you've been through some things in your life, especially in those early years of your childhood, and especially when it comes to relationships, that have really made you put a shield up to the world. But I get the sense that in this romantic connection, this is maybe the first time in your life that you've actually lowered this shield in a meaningful way, where you've definitely made some meaningful connections with people, but you always have that kind of protection around your core. But this is really the first time you've actually thought, like, you know what, maybe if I lowered down this shield, something good could come of it. So I get the sense that you're really in the beginning stages of learning to let down your shield. But at the same time, this protection has always been very good for you because it's really protected your core sense of self, in that it's really warded off attacks or outside influences, or maybe someone who's not so guarded could really be easily influenced and could really be hurt by the world in some ways. Like, if you show the world your true self in a situation that's not quite safe, it could be so wounding to you that you lock that part of yourself away for many years. Whereas I get the sense because you've protected this side of yourself for so long, it's really ready to come out and really flourish in the world in a really safe context. All right, and a card that describes the other person in this dynamic. And, this could be any gender. This could be same-sex relationships. A lot of times readings will say, like, masculine or feminine, so maybe I'll refer to maybe the masculine or feminine person in this dynamic a little bit, but that doesn't have to mean gender per se. Like, if you identify yourself as a masculine or as a feminine, better than what society is going to call you, right? You just know in your soul. So this other person, Pen. So I get the sense that this person is a very creative person, and they really have a way with words. And maybe this is kind of what drew you towards them, is you realize, like, oh, this person can really seduce me with their words, or maybe you didn't even realize it in that conscious way, but that's just sort of how it happened, is that maybe you're used to dealing with people in the past who just didn't utilize words to their fullest. They just maybe weren't that interested in talking all that much and having these really deep conversations, or, saying these things that could really stir something passionate or romantic in you. But I think that this person is maybe one of the first people you've encountered that can really use words to their fullest potential in a situation. And maybe they're not even doing it fully intentionally. Maybe it's just like a talent that they've sort of acquired just through the use of their intellect, and through reading and through study, that they just naturally are able to express themselves verbally very well. And I get the sense that they're also someone who is going to make their mark in the world when it comes to the Pen card. Like, they're not just someone who is okay to sort of be passive and just absorb things from outside. I get the sense that this is really someone who wants to do something in the world and be acknowledged for their unique creative potential. All right, let's draw a card to describe what the dynamic is between you guys. Chalice. Okay, so I get the sense that this is a very rewarding dynamic between the two of you, and you've probably had a lot of dates where you're sharing drinks, and maybe there's this feeling where, like, when you spend time talking to each other, especially on these dates, it's almost like you're drinking from a chalice. And, what this chalice is providing you might differ depending on your situation, but it's kind of giving me this feeling of, like, drinking from the fountain of youth. Like, it's almost like when you spend time together, talking and drinking, it's like you're reconnecting to your inner child and that really innocent, youthful part of you before you maybe experienced some traumatic things in your life, and maybe that really true self when you were a child that you really felt connected to, of like, this is me. And then maybe over time you kind of lost it, but by having these conversations you're starting to connect to that side of yourself again. And I also get the sense that this connection really feels abundant to you both. Like, it really feels like it feeds some part of you that is like, almost, it can be a little bit intoxicating in some ways, of just like, you're not used to having your passion stirred in this way, and it almost feels like just talking to them, you're almost like getting drunk off of this feeling because you're so not used to having that stirred inside you. All right, and let's draw a card to figure out where you guys are now in your dynamic, because I might talk about your relationship. That doesn't necessarily mean you're in like a serious committed relationship or anything. I just really mean like the human relationship that you guys have to each other. So I think this card might explain a little bit about where you guys are right now. All right, notebook. Okay, so I get the sense that you're both kind of taking notes on the situation. So maybe you went through this initial period where it was like really intense and passionate. You weren't really thinking too much. You were just kind of throwing yourself into things. But I get the sense that recently one or both of you has taken a step back to really reassess the situation and really on your own kind of think about like, okay, is this the right situation for me? Is this really what I want? How are things going so far? And like, what are things going to be like in the future? And so I get the sense this could literally involve a notebook. Like, this very likely involves a diary, whether it's on their part or in your end, is you're probably writing a lot in your diary about reflecting on what this dynamic has stirred inside you and what you want to get out of it, and like the emotions you're feeling on a day-to-day basis when you spend time with this person. Because maybe in previous dynamics you weren't so aware of this sort of thing, and you kind of went along with it, maybe because you felt that having a relationship was something that was really good for, your ego, or just like your sense of security of like, being in a relationship makes me feel loved, therefore I will stay in a relationship regardless of how it makes me feel. But I get the sense that now you're really shifting into this phase of your life where you feel like, it's important how this person makes me feel on a day-to-day basis. If we spent 30 days together, out of those 30 days, how many days did they make me feel good, and how many days did this connection make me feel bad or neutral? And if it's not really going in a positive direction, then I think you can kind of take that as a sign that maybe this connection is not going to work out for you. All right, let's draw a few cards on, again, like maybe what your dynamic is right now. Okay, so we've got the Ace of Pentacles. So this is really feeling like it's the beginning of something that could be great, honestly. It's feeling like together you could really be like planting a seed and, maybe relating to something that you're building in the world. Like, maybe you could be starting a project together, or you could just be supporting each other in your respective projects. Maybe it's not necessarily a collaboration, but it actually is like a collaboration, maybe not like physically, but like psychologically, because they'll bounce ideas off of you and you'll do the same to them, and you'll kind of feed each other's inspired sides, and like maybe your like intellectual interests in some ways, but maybe like the way that you practice your craft is slightly different, so that maybe you're not like sitting down at a desk together and working together literally, but that your connection is integral to the work that you're both doing. And I also get the sense that by working together in this way, you're kind of setting up like a future for yourselves, and really this feeling of like abundance in the future, of like you're planting the seeds in a garden right now at this stage of your relationship, and through this commitment and growth that you're going to share together, you will get to see the garden flourish. All right, let's pull another card on what your situation is right now. All right, we've got the Two of Wands here. So this is someone who is a lone figure who is observing a globe. So it's someone kind of looking on at the world. And, the two is like, the union of the two of you coming together. But then on this card, it is a lone figure. So I get the sense that even when you're alone, you have this sense of union, both of you. Where it's almost like you feel this other person's presence with you even when you're apart, and it's almost like you can almost feel them hovering over your shoulder in a way. And maybe you kind of had these situations almost where like you're apart, but it almost feels like you saw a ghost or something, where it's like, like, oh, did I just see them there? And you know, especially in public, you're maybe noticing, like, you think you see them out of the corner of your eye, but they're not actually there, and it's because, you know, you've formed such a close bond already that it's like psychologically you're already there. And like, honestly, not to get too woo woo about it, I mean, I'm holding tarot cards and burning a pink candle right now, so I think we're gonna get a little woo woo, but maybe there's a level where you almost share this telepathic connection. I mean, I know it sounds a little crazy, but you know, if you've experienced it, maybe you know what I mean, is like, you know, when you're so tuned into another person's emotions, it is really almost like there's feeling of transfer between the two of you, and especially when you're together, you know, when you're apart, it almost feels like maybe like a telephone, and it's like a little broken, kind of like this crackling, but when you're up close, it's really like this electrical feedback that just almost feels exponential. You know, it's like when one of you talks, the other one is feeding the other, and it's just this really interesting dynamic that really is best expressed when the two of you are together physically. And going back to this card, like, really this figure is contemplating everything right now. Like, I think that maybe both of you are really contemplating like your futures and what you want out of this world, and like really figuring out, like, you know, what else is there in this world. Like, maybe you've even thought about like what are your other options, and maybe they're thinking about this too. Is like really trying to consider, like, who is the right person for me. If I really think pragmatically about, like, you know, who are the options available to me and who is the best, maybe this person is coming out on top, and maybe like vice versa, you're coming out on top for them. Like, just when you really logically assess the situation, even putting aside these strong feelings of love that you share for each other. All right, so maybe let me pull a card on kind of how you feel towards this person. I mean, obviously you know better than I do, but maybe this card will illuminate a little something you weren't quite aware of. All right, so we've got the Ace of Cups. So similar to the Chalice card and with the Ace of Pentacles, like, this is really something that is kind of like a fresh beginning, and like a nourishing sort of, and it's like an overflow really here too. It's like, you know, what this person is so abundant to you, like, just you know, you want to know all of them, and it feels like it's just this overflowing fountain that it's almost like you don't feel like you could ever really know them fully, because there's just so much to discover. Where sometimes there are people in this world where you encounter them and it's like, oh, I kind of figured you out, I kind of pinned you down, there's not really much going on there. Or, you know, at least on the level that they're expressing in the world, it's like, you know. But this person is really complex, where it's like they're just such an overflow, and maybe I get the sense that this person might be the type of person to like really not hold back, where you're maybe a little bit more restrained. But like with this card of like I keep saying, overflow, is like maybe they just kind of like let things spill, and maybe this is almost what attracted you to them in the first place, is like, you don't necessarily need to prompt them all the time of like, tell me what you're thinking. They just kind of let their thoughts flow out in this really intuitive and you know, expressive manner. And maybe you do the same as well, maybe in the right situation. But I think you're almost in awe at the way that this person can tap into this at any time and really do it so casually and flawlessly. All right, and let's draw a card to see what this person is thinking about you. Ooh, the Tower. Oh man, this is, I really get the sense that this person sees you as like this, either you are the tower moment in their life, or you're triggering some tower moments in their life, where like the Tower, if you don't know, is like this card of, you know, destruction. Like, as you can see in this here, right? Things are falling apart. But at the same time, it's also the card of new beginnings, right? You know, you need to burn down the tower for new things to be built. So maybe, like I mentioned, is like, you know, this union between the two of you is so new to you that you're really not used to like what this could be. And so maybe you represent a tower moment of like what they thought they could get out of a relationship, and probably like honestly the same for you, but I think maybe much more extreme in the case of this other person, where maybe you know, you kind of had a little bit of an open mind, whereas they really thought like, this is it, this is what relationships can be. and that's it. And they were just like completely certain, and they really didn't even have their heart open to the possibility of the love that you've shown them. And so in a sense, it's almost like a shattering of their expectations and beliefs on this really deep level of like they're almost in disbelief, like they really just didn't think this was possible. And then by extension, like this has triggered a lot of tower moments in their life as well, because it's like, now to build something with you, certain things that they have built have to fall because of this expectation that they were operating in in their lives of just like, this is all I can get out of life, this is what life is. Maybe they've made decisions that put them in a spot that really don't make it possible for them to really have like a loving, warm relationship, or like have stability in their life. So they're starting to realize that things in their life have to change if they want to accept your sort of love into their life. And that's kind of intense. And I'm really curious, like where you guys stand with each other, like how you're really feeling towards each other right now in this moment. All right, we've got the 7 of swords here. Yeah, as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm a little new to reading tarot, so sometimes I struggle with, and also like Roman numerals are hard. The 7 of Swords, okay. So this is someone who is just like overflowing with abundance. You start to talk in this tarot reader speak, it's really off-putting, but it's someone who's kind of sneaking off with all these swords. He has too many damn swords of what he knows what to do with. And I get this is kind of the sense that you guys have in your dynamic, is like there's just so much going on, like, and it's almost like this satisfaction, but almost it's like you're beyond satisfied, because it's like, you really only thought you would get like 1% of this in your life, and now you have the full 100%. And it's like you literally can't even hold it all in your arms, because it's just like there's just so much going on, where it's like, even if things are like, not always the best between you guys, or maybe there's like times where you're not talking, like even just 1% of the feelings that you guys have shared is just enough to like put a smile on your face, honestly, and have you grinning like an idiot just because of things that you've shared together. And even if you look at this card, right, it's like he's got the 5 swords in his arms there, but there's also the 2 swords standing on their own. And like, again, this is representing like calling back to this 2 of Wands card, where there's the 2 wands implanted in the ground too. Like it's like this feeling of the union of the 2 poles, of like maybe you represent different polar dynamics of the masculine and feminine, and you're equals, and you're both upright, and you're both like sturdy and strong, so that you can bounce off of each other in this really powerful way. Let's draw like maybe a card on like what are the next steps in your relationship, like what's coming next. Okay, so we've got the 6 of Swords coming in here, and this is really like something of like a crossing the river, right? It's this man who is rowing a woman and child in this boat and crossing this body of water. So I get the sense of what's coming next is you're crossing into new lands. Like it's somewhere you've never been before, and you can't go back after this. And it could almost have this bittersweet feeling to it, honestly, because maybe at the beginning of your relationship it was just the sweet, and then things went a little bit downhill and it became just the bitter, and now you're kind of finding that balance in between of like realism, and maybe that fairy tale romance aspect has kind of like been dulled a little bit, especially recently. I'm getting the sense of like this almost like wistful, like when I look at this card, to me it makes me think that maybe their home was burned down and that's why they're leaving to distant shores. So I get the sense that it really is this feeling of like departure, of like leaving things behind, but also building a new foundation in this new scene that you're both moving towards. And, at the same time, like you're traveling together, even though maybe there is some feelings of separation in your dynamic right now, you're still going on this journey together. And like I mentioned with this 2 of Wands card, is like you're still present in each other's mental and almost like physical environments too, where like, even if you're not like physically seeing each other, when you look up, and see the same sky, it's a strange feeling of like feeling united with this person and going on the journey together. All right, let's draw a couple cards to kind of close out about like what the future is and like maybe like what you should do in this dynamic. Oh my goodness. All right, we've got the 10 of Swords here. Oh my goodness. This is kind of a crazy, this is a hard card to look at. That's a really violent card. It's someone who's being stabbed very many times by very many swords. So I get the sense maybe this recent feeling or like kind of future feeling is just like you just are honestly kind of like done with it, because it's just, you know, the passion is so strong and it feels really good in some ways, but then it also feels like this is just so much, like I mentioned, where it's like even like 1% of your dynamic is enough to have you smiling like a fool. Like 1% of your dynamic is enough to have you feeling like you've been stabbed a billion times, and it's just like it's just really an intense emotional thing to go through. Is just, you know, there positive reactions to you just like have you feeling over the moon, and then there are negative reactions to you just have you feeling like just completely I like, you know, you just never want to make them have a negative reaction to you. You only want to, you know, maybe even not even have like these crazy highs either, but you just really want stability. But right now you're kind of going back and forth between the highs and the lows. So I really get the sense that in the future, like to make this dynamic work, what you really need to focus on together is building stability and understanding this like middle ground and compromise and understanding and pragmatic realism that maybe was missing in your dynamic previously, but is essential to the present and future of your dynamic. All right, a few more cards. All right, we've got the Four of Cups. So again, this is like a figure on their own, and we've been drawing quite a few of these cards that have single figures on them here. And this is someone who's sitting under a tree and being offered a cup. And you know, really what this card reminds me of, honestly, is like the Buddha sitting under the tree and reaching enlightenment there, of like, you know, silent contemplation and like spending some time by yourself. And in this time where you're apart and contemplating things is when you'll be offered this chalice of like, you know, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to drink in order to, you know, resolve things in your dynamic. And when I say drink, I mean like psychologically integrate this lesson that you need to integrate into yourself that will be the key to resolving conflict in your dynamic. And it's really important that you spend time alone, because like for both of you, this is going to be different. Like what this other person needs to do to heal and make your dynamic possible is going to be entirely different from the steps that you need to take. But I get the sense that both of you need to do this. It's not just like one party or the other. But maybe in some ways, like, one party might have a little bit of an easier go of it. Like maybe your challenge that you have to face is just like a little bit easier to come to, or maybe one of you is like a little bit more practiced in understanding how to get to this point. And I get the sense that maybe just spending some time, in nature could almost be important, like going outside and really connecting to the earth and just like remembering that you are an animal at the end of the day could be really important to this. Because I think maybe previously, especially with all these like swords cards we're getting here, it's like maybe you've just been in your heads a little bit too much for the both of you, is just really thinking too hard about things and really getting into the psychological aspect of human nature, of just like a headiness of just, you know, the human psyche is so complex, and we have all this stuff built up over thousands and thousands of years. And sometimes it's important to remember at the end of the day, we are kind of just monkeys. And like, it's really not that deep, honestly. Like the complexity of the human psyche is what makes a romantic connection possible. But at the same time, like connecting to our animal nature is what's going to connect us to our human nature and make our relationships possible on a human level. All right, so let's draw one card to close out this reading. I want to kind of end it on an optimistic note. We'll see what the card brings out, though. I would really love for this to go in your favor. All right, so we've got the Six of Cups. Oh, and this one is so cute because you know, like I mentioned, we had a lot of cards where there was just a single figure, but on this card you see there's two figures. Yes, it's like two children. It's kind of like a little boy and a little girl, and like like I mentioned, with this kind of fountain of youth of like drinking from a chalice together. This is like he's presenting her a bouquet. That's so cute. And it's like this feeling of returning back to that childhood sense of like being on the playground and just like having this really sweet innocence. Like, if I mean, I never had this personally, but I knew people who did. Is like, you know, when you had like a boyfriend or girlfriend in kindergarten and that sort of thing, and it was just this really sweet thing of just like, I choose you. And it's like, it's not like this adult way of approaching relationships where it's like, does this person make enough money for me, you know, like, and whatever all these other concerns are that people actually care about. It's really just this innocent see, I can't even think of all that. Like, what do people look for in relationships? I don't know. I think it's just this really innocent, sweet, I choose you. Like, let's be friends, let's be together. That's just the vibe that I'm getting from this card, and from your dynamic in general. I hope this reading was somewhat enjoyable for you to watch. You know, if it applied or resonated with your situation at all, please let me know. I'd really be curious to hear about that. And if you have any requests for future videos, whether that be a specific topic or just a general reading, please let me know, and I always appreciate the feedback from you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.